Wolves reject Manchester City's opening bid for midfielder Matheus Nunes. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's big breaking news story is that Wolverhampton Wanderers have rejected Manchester City's opening bid for their Portuguese midfielder Matheus Nunes. Now, if you've been following this story in recent days, you'll know that initially Manchester City wanted West Ham midfielder Lucas Paqueta. When that deal fell through, they refocused their attention on Matheus Nunes of Wolves. They stepped up their interest in recent days, and it seems that an initial bid of €55 million has been rejected by Wolves for the Portuguese midfielder. But we don't believe we have heard the last of this. We're going to be talking all about this big breaking news story. We're going to be talking about Wolves. We're going to be talking about Man City. We're going to be talking about Nunes and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, do get involved in the comment section as well. I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure will make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Matheus Nunes, Wolves, Manchester City, and everything else in between. So, in recent days, like I said, if you've been following this story, you'll know that initially Manchester City wanted West Ham's Lucas Paqueta. And then once he landed himself in some hot water and there was light brought to the news of his gambling allegations, that obviously landed him in some serious hot water. When that was brought to light, that move collapsed. That move fell through and City were forced to refocus their attention elsewhere, and they quickly landed on Wolverhampton Wanderers midfielder Matheus Nunes. Now, of course, with the date closing on the end of the transfer window, we are into the final 8 days, I believe, at the time of recording. Obviously, the wheels had to be put in motion on this one very quickly, and they seemingly were. And it seems that a bid has been rejected by Wolves for the Portuguese midfielder. John Percy took to Twitter, or X as it's now commonly known. We'll call it Twitter because that's all I've known it to be. X is just stupid. Has talked to X/Twitter to say that Wolves have rejected a £47 million bid from Manchester City for Matheus Nunes. Opening offer for the Portugal international worth €55 million in total, but nowhere near Wolves' valuation. Wolves don't want to sell, but probably not the end of this one. You'll know Nunes hasn't had the best of careers at Wolves. You know that obviously last year when he was obviously speculated on his future, and his future was obviously up in the air. You'll know that in Portugal when playing for Sporting Lisbon, he had a lot of options. He was highly rated. He was highly sought of. He was seen as having a lot of potential. A lot of people were after him, including Liverpool, of course, and there was strong links with Liverpool across the summer, especially after obviously missing out on Aurelian Tchouameni at the time. Lots of people were linking many midfielders to a move to Anfield and to Liverpool especially, but of course a move never materialised for Liverpool, and in the end a shock move to Wolves did. And when obviously he started to play, people were saying that we dodged a bullet. People were saying that this guy is not as good as his reputation led you to believe. They were saying that this guy's hype and excitement and expectation never quite hit the heights and the demand that was expected of him when he did move, and that all that hype and excitement was left over in Portugal. He's shown flashes, he's shown glimpses, he had the odd performance here and there that was brilliant, or that was perfect, or that was amazing. But it was never consistent. He never found true consistency. And like I say, many Liverpool fans were claiming, especially, that they dodged a bullet in this one. Fast forward to recent days, and all of a sudden, just because Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, the best manager and the best run club in world football right now, are after this guy, all of a sudden, he's back to being great again. He's back to being amazing. He's back to being the perfect midfielder all over again. It's amazing how football can work in that aspect. I'm not saying all fans and all Liverpool fans especially are saying that, but some of them have started to change their tune. For me, I'm not gonna change my tune on it. I think that this guy is a bit of a diamond in the rough. I don't think he was as great as what his reputation in Portugal led you to believe. I can't say that I watched too much of him in Portugal, by the way, but judging on the little bits that I've seen, I thought, yeah, he's good. He's good, but I don't see the massive hype around him. I don't see the massive hype, and especially when he came over to this country and he started to play for Wolves, and I know that Wolves obviously had a bit of a stop-start season in terms of he was playing under about 2 or 3 different managers across the entire campaign last year. I'm just saying that I think this guy is good in certain aspects, but nothing exciting, nothing major to write home about. I think he's good, and I think he'll obviously get better if a move does materialise to Manchester City. But I didn't necessarily understand the hype. I think if a move does materialise to Manchester City, I think he'll obviously get better. He'll be playing under a better manager for a start. So, of course, his game is going to evolve and it's going to go up many levels. He'll be playing around better players, so that will obviously enhance his game as well. I think he will find consistency. I think he is a bit of a diamond in the rough, so to speak, to a certain extent. I just think that maybe Wolves wasn't the best move for him. I think that they didn't play to his strengths. I think obviously the chaos at Wolves didn't help him either. And I think moving to City, when you've got a better manager, where you've got better players, and I think we are playing a style of play that's going to suit him more. I think he more suits the more possession-based style of play, where he can actually get on the ball and dictate things rather than have to play a bit more of a direct fashion than what he was at Wolves. I think that will help him more. So I do think that this move could work out for the best, and I think that he, in that particular style, with that particular piece of play, I think that will obviously enhance him and help him go up a level in his game, and obviously help him find consistency, which I think has been his major downfall. Like I say, I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's an amazing world-class player. I think he's a solid player who would do a job for the team. And I think with City's current squad, you can obviously see that they're looking to reinforce their midfield. They went after Declan Rice earlier this summer. They went after Lucas Paqueta. So there was obvious that they were targeting midfield in particular. And now they've landed on Nunes, who, like I say, is a solid addition. With Kevin De Bruyne's injury, and obviously Kevin De Bruyne getting on a bit, he's obviously not going to be playing as much football, or could obviously play as much football as what he was maybe a couple of years ago or a few years ago. So obviously they're looking to try and rebirth that midfield, I guess, and change that midfield and obviously transform it a little bit. And Nunes, being a 24-year-old midfielder, fits that bill. He's obviously versatile. He can play anywhere across the midfield. He can play as a defensive midfielder. He can play as a more attacking midfielder. He can play as a more box-to-box midfielder. He can play as a winger as well. He's been deployed on the wings a fair few times across his career, whether it be at Sporting or at Wolves. So he's very versatile in that aspect, which I'm sure will benefit Guardiola to no end, especially when it comes to certain scenarios, certain match days, certain opponents. So he's got a lot going for him in terms of that aspect. It's just about finding his consistency that's going to be the issue. But I'm sure, like I say, under the best manager in world football, surrounded by some of the best players in world football, he can certainly find that element to his game. It's just about whether or not a bid could be found. And let's face it, whenever Man City come calling, 9 times out of 10, that move does eventually materialise. And like I say, a move should materialise in this. Like, City are a big enough club, and I'm going to assume that Nunes will want to jump at the opportunity at playing for the best club in world football right now to obviously make that happen. I think this move will go ahead. I know that we're entering the final days of the transfer window, but I would strongly suspect that a move will materialise. I think if a move was going to materialise for Lucas Paqueta, I can't see why it wouldn't for Nunes. I know Wolves are seemingly playing hardball, and believe me, I wouldn't be spending 47 million odd on this player. But if City and Guardiola are obviously on board with this 100%, then they will go for it. And let's face it, City fans are not going to question it. City fans may have certain reservations over this player. They may have seen him at Wolves and maybe going like, are you sure about this guy completely? But let's face it, it's Guardiola. If he wanted to go to Chesterfield and buy a player from there for 20 odd million, City fans would again have certain reservations, but ultimately they would go for it because they ultimately trust their manager. They would blindly follow Guardiola into an active volcano. With the hope of making it out alive. I don't know why I said active volcano. That was a weird analogy. But you know what I mean. They'd follow him blindly into any kind of danger in the hope that they would get him out. And that is seemingly the same for transfers as well. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, so I'm just going to move on with it. You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean. They blindly follow this manager no matter what, because they always believe he's got some sort of plan. He's always got some sort of idea as to how he wants his team to play. He's always trying to be one step ahead of his opposition. And he's always trying to change football and make it more interesting, more exciting. And that's what Guardiola does. And when it comes to transfers as well, again, that's what he does. He always tries to look at players that either are not being looked at, or he's looking at players that may fit a specific style, a specific approach, or may hold something or have something that other players don't. And again, when you've got the riches of Man City, you could go after everybody. But he decided to go after Nunes, so there must be something there with this guy that makes him a great player. That obviously is going to be a worthy asset and a worthy addition to this Manchester City squad. Like I say, it's all about whether or not a deal can be done, and I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. I'd be very surprised if Nunes didn't have his head turned. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he starts to maybe kick up a little bit of a fuss about it. And obviously with Wolves' current position in terms of their financial situation and everything, maybe cashing in on Nunes as an asset to sell may not be the worst thing for them to do. Obviously, I know he's a key player. John Percy says that they obviously don't want to sell. But let's face it, once your head gets turned by City and once the money starts talking, it's very difficult to stop that momentum from flowing. And I would imagine City do get this deal over the line. And then, like I say, it's a question of whether or not they can find his consistency, whether or not he can take his game to a new level. And I would imagine that he probably could, given the tools that are going to be available to him and given the kind of player he is that Guardiola can mould further as obviously his reign continues. But that's the breaking news today. Wolverhampton Wanderers have rejected a bid from Manchester City in the region of £47 million for the Portuguese midfielder. These are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this big breaking news story regarding Matheus Nunes? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to this story? I'd love to hear them, read them all down below in the comment section because it's short, it'll make for great and interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good day.